On today's episode of Homeworthy, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, visiting Holly Hollingsworth Phillips, the owner of the English Room. Holly, an interior designer, lives in her renovated childhood home. Her style is elegant, eclectic, and colorful, blending old and new elements. Holly grew up surrounded by design, attending antique shows and going to her first buying trip to Europe at age 11. Her love of pattern, art, and layering can be seen throughout her home. Enjoy! You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Holly Phillips. Welcome to my home in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'd love to show you around. Hi, I'm Holly Hollingsworth Phillips. I own the English Room, which is an interior design firm. We originally started importing English antiques, which is where the name came from. I also have a content creation business and blog that I've had for about 12 years. So that's kind of my side hustle because I love to shop. We are in Charlotte, North Carolina. My home is my family home that my parents built in 1963. I bought it from them about 5 years ago when they moved to a retirement community. I just couldn't let it go. And it's a very traditional Williamsburg home when they built it, filled with American antiques. And then the early 80s, my mother hired Mario Buada to decorate the house. So there are a few little remnants left of his design style. And I've taken it to a more eclectic, colorful, layered look. My style is a mix of traditional and contemporary. I love modern art and I love abstract art. I have a penchant for color that I cannot escape. I try and do neutral and then I end up layering it with all different colors and patterns. I love animal print. I love rainbows, which you'll see throughout the house. And I love just more color, and I love Iris Apfel's theory of more is more. This is my living room. Welcome. This is one of my favorite rooms in the house. I love all of the color and the neutral base. In here, I have one of my favorite art pieces by Sally King Benedict, who is an artist who's now living in Idaho, but she's represented by Heidel Brooks Gallery in Charlotte. We have some contemporary little scallop chairs with brass bases. One of my favorite sofas that I've had since I moved back to Charlotte in 1999, and it still hasn't been recovered, so good things can last. My favorite fabric is the curtain fabric, which is an Osborne and Little Christian Lacroix. And I love the kind of fluorescent flowers on the bold black background. I have lots of antiques mixed in with my contemporary pieces. This is a pretty little 18th century painted French table with a cabriole leg. The treasures and trinkets, everybody laughs because I can go anywhere and shop. Shopping is my gift. And I went to India with Egypt with a dear friend last year, and he said he'd already been, and he was like, there's absolutely nothing to buy. I bought about 50 little trinkets that are in this room and filled up an entire bag and had to take his bag. So I can shop anywhere. These are some chairs that were actually my parents that stayed here when they moved, and I recovered them in a contemporary fabric. Another interesting element in this room is I knew I wanted the walls to stay neutral so that all the bright colors and the art could pop. But I did a Tebow grass cloth that's a cream color with these little grommets or little additions of paint and squares on it. And they have a little metallic pearl sheen, which I think adds a nice element to the background. This is one of my favorite pieces. I bought it on a buying trip with my parents when I was younger. I'm the youngest of 4 children, and I would often get sent on buying trips with my parents when the older children were off doing things. So I started going on buying trips when I was 10 or 12. And so each trip, which you'll see in another room, I bought a painting, and occasionally I would buy a piece of furniture. So I think I bought this when I was a teenager at some point. I loved it. And I love the chamfered corner and the fretwork and all the things. So I've had it with me as soon as I moved into my adult house after college. This was one of the first things I had, and I treasure it. These fun chairs are Bernhardt. covered in hide, which I love, and I love almost a little Western nod, which is unusual, obviously, in this house. These pretty goatskin tables, obviously vellum tops, little pretty legs with the little animal foot, an antique tortoise frame that's from England from a buying trip, another little Egypt treasure, which I have many of them. Obviously, I love purple from looking at my living room, you can tell. These purple lamps I bought from a vendor at High Point Market and adore them, and then just replaced the shades pretty recently from a vendor in Charleston. And I think updating shades makes such a difference, and I'm slowly changing everything in my house to a little more pattern, a little more color. This is my father and I in probably 1990 at my debutante ball. The sofa has a funny story. I ordered this years ago and I sent my delivery guys to pick it up. And most clients don't generally go as bold as I go for myself. And the delivery guys, before they would put it on the truck, they were like, I think it's the wrong color. It's this crazy purple. You definitely don't want this sofa. They've put the wrong fabric on it. Well, turns out it's exactly what I wanted. So they brought it back and I love it. But it's also one of the ones that I've probably had 15 years and not recovered. It has a little child damage if you look too close, but it's one of my favorites. This painting is from Shane Gallery, from a Nashville artist, and it is an encaustic, so it's covered in wax, and something about rainbows just appeals to me. I think it's so hopeful, and so I immediately saw it, and I also love the round shape. I think it's so unusual. So I immediately moved what I had here, which you'll now see in another room. Everything always moves around in my house. Nothing stays still. These are more of my favorite trinkets from various trips to India and Egypt. The scarab boxes, little thunderbirds. I bought this. This is another one that my friend Grant was like, why are you buying a big brass keychain? What are you going to do with that? But it makes me remember the resort in the middle of India that we went on a leopard safari. And so I don't think everything has to be fine in order to love it. Always changing out cushions in my house. And the reason is not only because I love cushions, but I have a dog that eats the corner of every single cushion. And if you pick up pillows in my house, there's likely an eaten corner. So I am constantly changing them out. Even today when I was fluffing, I noticed that we had more eaten cushions than I knew about. I collect match strikers, which I'll show you in the secretary in a minute, but this is just one of the many match strikers that I collect. This is my penchants for chinoiserie, and I love, 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 love anything lacquer. So I had wanted a black lacquer secretary and had looked for one for years on buying trips, and they were always outrageously priced. And so a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, soon after I moved into this house, that I found at auction at a local auction house that was such a steal, and I adore it. I've got my collection of antique match strikers here, my grandmother's paperweights that are Murano, and various things she collected from her travels, and a collection of tortoise boxes, and then one of my many art books on stand. So I love this piece. I love all the storage. I love all the little secret drawers throughout. It's a great place to hide things, a great place for your stationery, and I just think it brings such depth to the room with the boldness and the height. Love this little chair. It is based on the Badminton House, in a chair that was found, designed by Thomas Chippendale, in the Badminton House in England. And after college, I went to London and studied at Sotheby's Decorative Arts course. And this happened to be one of the pieces that I had to write my thesis on. And then I saw it at a antique shop in Charleston. So it's a copy, obviously, but it's a good 20th century copy. And I love the story of that. It's something that I had to study years ago. Welcome to my library. This room is a paneled walnut room that was my father's pride. He loves this room, and I threatened to lacquer it a bright blue when I first moved in, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I've actually come to love the dark wood. This room showcases lots of my art, mostly 18th century, 19th century sporting art from England. I started collecting these, that's what I was saying earlier, started collecting these dog paintings, and every buying trip I would get to buy a dog painting. So as you can see throughout the walls, there are dog paintings everywhere. I'm a huge dog lover. And so each one represents a different buying trip as a child going to England. So it's really special to me. And I also think it's a great juxtaposition from the contemporary art throughout the rest of the house. So this little settee love seat was here when my parents lived here. I recovered it. I love the bright, bold iCat pillows that are Samuel & Sons trim on Cole & Sons fabric. Little vintage pillow I found on Cherish. These little pillows are from Anthropologie. This table has a great story. So I had always wanted a Charbet table with the antelope head, and they are an absolute fortune on First Dibs. And I had a search in my eBay for years for this, and it popped up one day that a pawn shop in Montana had these, and I bought them from there and had them shipped here. So that was a good find, like my secretary. Moving on, so more art. Langlois, this is one of my favorite English ones. Small farm scene above. I have so many books. Luckily, with my design blog, I often get sent new releases from a lot of Rizzoli and Assouline and different vendors. So I am lucky enough to have almost every design book that's out there. And I did them color coordinated because I love color and I thought it would be fun. More dog paintings behind the door with other little treasures mixed in. This is Alexis Walter, who's one of my favorite artists. You'll see more of her work throughout the house. Again, a whole wall of dog paintings. This one right here of the terrier, which I love terriers. We have 3 rescues right now, but have grown up with Jack Russells, and one of mine, the bad one that eats the pillows, is a Jack Russell. This, when I bought at Sotheby's, actually, at an estate sale 10, 15 years ago, it had Mark Hampton's name on the back written in chalk. No idea if it was his or if it was his client's, but that was an interesting story. This little table of the paper mache tray has a picture of Dignity and Impudence, which is a really famous English dog painting, and I had bought a copy of it, which is on the wall behind you. Bought a copy of it years ago and then found the tray, so I loved that. And then I needed to mix a little contemporary in here with all the traditional, so I did a contemporary lighting piece from Worlds Away. A campaign style chest with little black ebony insets and lion head mounts, which I adore. This table was a piece that my parents had and had left here. The frog tureen was a gift from my parents that we had always had this on a table in our house, and I had coveted it as well as some of my siblings, and I ended up getting it, so I was thrilled about that. I bought this in this painting last year, actually, in Parma. I love how rough and how almost abstract the design is, and it's from a 19th century Spanish artist, and I bought it in Italy at the Antiques Fair. This is a favorite. I grew up with Shelties as well as Jack Russells, so this picture of a collie I had to have when I saw it. So this room's just special to me because it's a place to house all my dog paintings. This is one of my favorite rooms to get away from the other people in the house. I will come in here and work on my computer. I'll come in here and look at my design books. It's a great place for me to get inspired because I'll just grab a book if I need a little inspiration. I think a really easy way to incorporate color is to do it with cushions and pillows. Is a great place to start because you can switch them out. It's not a huge commitment. I love bold colors, obviously, on sofas and upholstery, but I think if someone wants to buy neutral upholstery, they can easily punch it up with a throw over the back of something with a cushion. Lamp shades are an easy way to add color. I do think it's important when you move into a home, even though I lived here my entire childhood, I would have painted this when I first moved in and I would have regretted it. I think it's really important to live in spaces and kind of see how you're going to use them and learn how you're using them before you make drastic changes. Welcome to my primary bedroom. My favorite thing is this Bernhardt lucite and brass bed, acrylic and brass bed. I also adore the walls. They are grass cloth from Tebow, and they have glitter in them. It's called glitter grass. That was a little bit of a shock to my husband when we had this installed. He didn't get to say anything about the whole house, and he just got it as a surprise. This is a portrait of my son. that I adore by Jonette Egley. This piece was part of Iris Apfel's collection, who, as you may know, is one of my favorite people and kind of icons that I adore. She unfortunately passed away this year, but she did a collection for Frontgate, and they actually reached out to me. Maybe it was Grandin Road, which is one of their other companies. They reached out to see if I would feature some of their pieces. And it's a double elephant wicker console, which I think is about the most fabulous thing ever. I have a love of elephants. My grandmother collected elephants, so I ended up with a few of hers. And for some reason, I've just always been drawn to them. I collect needlepoint pillows. I used to think I was just indecisive. Now I'm not sure. So my husband thinks I'm terribly indecisive. I'm actually really not. It's just on where we're going to go to dinner. But I thought it was a good nod to his side of the bed, and he can see my indecisiveness. This chest is also Bernhardt. When I redid the room a few years ago, I needed more storage, so I added this. I love the combination of mirror and brass. Contemporary painting by Danny Jeschert. The colors and the abstract nature I adore. These were some lamps that I had picked up, I think, at a flea market, added some iCat shades that I had made locally. New rug that I recently purchased, had made specifically for this room in India, and thrilled with how it turned out. It was kind of, sent them a few colors and they just went with it, and it's turned out perfectly. Blackout roller shades, which I highly recommend, as well as blackout curtains. I love to sleep in pitch black dark. This chest is one that I also got as a child on a buying trip. It was kind of an era of English antiques where they were painting everything. So this is an old chest that was painted probably 20 years ago, and they put my mother's initials on the side and her logo of what the English room used to be, the logo, which was a basket of flowers. So it's special to me. This is a portrait of my daughter by Deborah Walsh, and love completely different style than my son. I love how abstract and how simple line drawing this is. And it really captured her at that age. Again, another favorite pillow with the animals, the paint horse and the zebra. My crazy bookshelf over here, which, if you can believe it or not, have actually dwindled it down. It was even worse yesterday. I have a collection of cowboy boots, and I have a weakness for cowboy boots. So this is some of my favorite cowboy boots. These I had made in San Miguel de Allende by an American lady named Carrie Cameron Art, and she hand paints the boots after they're made in Mexico. These are some Fraulein boots. These are the horse girl boots, so I had to have those. These are city boots, and they're my favorite Evil Eye boot. I was actually the model when they launched this collection because they knew how much I loved it. And it was photographed in this house. And then it's also filled with treasures like my Olympia Latan book clutches, which I have quite a few of and adore. Also collect so many things. Wicker animals, wicker funny shaped purses. I've always loved them and don't know why. A bag of my grandmother's, just kind of a mix of things that I love in here. A snakeskin rainbow purse. So it's a collection of boots from all different vendors and some of my favorite things. So I sleep on this side of the bed and I get to look at all of my favorite things. Even Ganesh, little Ganesh from India. These small pieces behind the bed are little abstract faces by Sally King Benedict, who's one of my favorite artists, represented at Haddell Brooks Gallery in Charlotte. The piece in the living room over the mantel is also her. These lamps are Bunny Williams' home. The bed is a mix of linens from lots of places: Peacock Alley, Annie Selke, Christy Kohut. And I went with a very neutral upholstery, a performance velvet on this bed because I wanted to be able to change the linens out, which I do often. Sometimes I'll have a printed duvet. Sometimes I'll have this Annie Selke puff. I love to switch it out all the time. I welcome you to my kitchen. This is one of the spaces that we actually redid and did a small addition out the back. The previous kitchen was pretty small here and a relatively small breakfast room with a little screened-in porch behind it. So we extended the whole space and made it bigger and one room versus a kitchen and breakfast room separate. I adore the size of this room. We spend probably 90% of our time in here if we're not sitting in the den. I am not a cook. I do not cook, but I love a pretty kitchen. This room is filled with lots of art. This is a recent addition from Haddell Brooks Gallery. Kim Testone, who's one of my favorite realist artists. I loved the Rainbow Sherbet. It spoke to me. And so I had seen one she'd done that was smaller and had commissioned her to do a larger one. This is an artist from Florida, represented at Gallery Orange in New Orleans. I bought Dolly when I was in New Orleans on a trip one time and couldn't resist it. Covered in acrylic, super thick, super dense. And then she makes all these individual weird little plastic figures, and she makes them herself, which I think is fascinating. And then I bought Queen Elizabeth right before she died, so I feel like I was meant to have her. This is the table where we spend all our casual family meals. This piece is really special. I bought it at a local auction house, Leland Little Gallery up in Hillsborough. And I had been watching this artist. I was so fascinated by these bold colors and bold shapes. Well, it turns out he's a well-known North Carolina folk artist. He had had a stroke, and after that happened, his vision was impaired. So he could only see bold shapes and he could only see bright colors. So that's why his work changed so drastically. And I love the large format. Everything he did after he had a stroke became large format. So it's one of my favorite pieces. These are a collection. This is Martin Summers as well as that. I bought it at High Point Market from a great antique dealer there. Lily Wallace, Alexis Walter, contemporary lighting from Hudson Valley. This is one of my favorite Jonathan Adler big acrylic pieces. Live edge table, loop chairs with a nod to Francis Elkin. They are bungalow home, which has changed to villa and home, but I love these chairs. I covered them in a green vinyl so they would be durable and you could wipe them off. The stripe on the banquette is also a performance fabric. These little chairs have been recovered once in 5 years already, and they get more use. Everybody sits here on phone calls. They sit here and check their phone. They sit here on their computer. My daughter does her homework sitting in these chairs. Everybody seems to love sitting in these funny little chairs. So we wanted 5 bar stools so everybody in the family had a place to sit. I wanted a huge island and a little prep. I decided to do the small prep sink in the island and a large sink over by the window. The backsplash is my favorite thing in the kitchen. It's from Artistic Tile, and it's these little brass stars inset in kind of a lantern shape tile. I had tried my darndest to find, there was a tile I saw on the floor of the Cathedral in Siena library that was these little stars, and I tried to have it made, but I couldn't find anybody to do it. So this kind of is a nod to the little stars of the cathedral in Siena, Italy. Welcome to my bar. We love this space. I was a ambassador for Florence Broadhurst Wallpaper, which is what this wallpaper is, when they launched a few years ago from Australia and tried to reboot the collection. She was a 1960s and 70s graphic designer and artist that became well known and has a fascinating story. So I was excited to use that in my house. This is a piece by Hunt Slonim, and it's a diamond dust bunny, which I love. This piece is from an artist in Atlanta represented by Mainline Art, and she does mostly horse pieces and sells her work at horse shows in Aiken, South Carolina. It looks like my horse, who's a paint with a little bit of white, and we have a huge love of martinis in this house, so I thought I needed that and was given it for Mother's Day a few years ago. This rug I bought last year in Morocco. I love the bold chartreuse and thought it was a nice tie-in to the hallway behind me. I have a ridiculous collection of glassware and more in storage, but I can't stop collecting them. These are favorites. Penland School of Art is in the North Carolina mountains and is very well known. This is Billy Bernstein, and he hand blows all of these up there. And I have a collection here as well as our mountain house. This painting is another favorite by Kim Testone, the same person who did the rainbow sherbet in the other room. I commissioned this for Father's Day a few years ago for my husband. It was really a gift for me, but we both love Bloody Marys as well. So I had her do a big Bloody Mary to represent our love of them. I added, wanted flat front cabinets like the kitchen and kept it very simple. I added an acrylic and brass mount hardware for this space to kind of make it a little more contemporary. This tray I also purchased years ago on a buying trip with the faux tortoise inset. It's one of my favorite things. And my collection of whiskey and tequila gets well used, especially around the holidays. Welcome to my den. This is really the heart of our home after the kitchen. We spend all of our time in here. Every night, this is where we kind of sit and decompress and watch TV. And my husband binges sports and all the things. This room is chock-a-blocked and filled with lots of treasures. This is a funny, the hearth is definitely a throwback to the Williamsburg era. This is actually a working grill. We don't use it because it smokes the house up, but we haven't gotten rid of it. I'm working on finding someone who can put a pizza oven there. This piece of art is a favorite by a local artist, Stephen Wilson. He is super interesting because he takes and does needlework basically on top of all of these luxury boxes. And I loved this series with the Gucci boxes and the eyes. Antique chest, pretty little acrylic candy dish. This is one of my favorite fabrics that I recently recovered a contemporary chair in. I found the chair on Cherish. The curtains are Stroheim, and I love the embroidery and I love the color of the chartreuse mixed with the purple and the pink. These chairs are also part of the Florence Broadhurst collection, and I love the parrots on the edges. And the fabric is from an English designer whose name has escaped me, but I love it's really soft to the hand and beautiful birds embroidered on it. On the mantle are ceramic pieces by an artist, Virginia Scotchy, who's represented at Haddell Brooks Gallery. And Jenna Julian is the artist on the piece that I commissioned for up here. It's such a long, skinny space. It was hard to find something, so I had to commission something. And over in this corner, Yves Saint Laurent print, which I have very few prints because I really believe in original art. But an Yves Saint Laurent print of the year that I was born, he did his own Christmas cards every year and he would draw them or paint them. And I particularly loved this one, and it was the year I was born, so I added that to my collection. This coffee table is one of my favorite finds ever. It has an inset bar. It is a coffee table from E.J. Victor. It is a copy of a French one that Aaron Lauder designed. So it was in Aaron Lauder's E.J. Victor collection. And I think the table was over $20,000. I happened to be driving to our mountain house and saw a sign for an E.J. Victor sample sale and went in and bought the table for less than a 20th of what it was retail. So that was one of my best finds ever. And I love it. It's huge. You can absolutely cut your leg off though on the corners. But it's one of my best finds. It has my ever-growing collection of books, which I'm always trying to thin out, but it's constantly growing. I also have a collection of crystals that a friend gave me, and then I started finding them, and then I also seemed to find heart rocks. I don't know why, and I saved them. This is a fun piece that's beaded that I bought in Mexico in San Miguel de Allende, and it's fully beaded skull. And then the art above the sofa. This piece is something I picked up off the street and had framed in acrylic, which I adore. It was in Morocco last year in Marrakesh on the street. So I love that piece with the funny man and his sunglasses and his little watch. This is Gigi Collins. This big piece used to be in the living room where the rainbow was. Rainbow is now, and it is Alexis Walter, who's a New Orleans artist. And I bought that probably 15 years ago, and she has since blown up. She's represented at Haddell Brooks Gallery. She has her own gallery in New Orleans. She's amazing. The sofa is a chartreuse velvet that is one of my favorite colors, obviously, did chartreuse down the hallway. And it has been really good because it's 110 inches long, so it's huge, and we can squish a lot of people on it. Then over here is Leslie Granger and then Ashley Longshore of Frida. And Ashley Longshore, if you don't know her, she's a New Orleans artist who's recently moved to Manhattan. She is hilarious to follow on Instagram and has a really great, funny perspective. Again, faux bois gesso table, 2 little pieces, a Nashville artist that does work in crayons that I purchased from Sozo Gallery that no longer is going, but I love the work. And these little swivel chairs with brass bases, and this is where we kind of sit every night. This is a piece that I inherited from my parents. It's a Swedish wedding chest. You'll note a date painted on it somewhere, and these were given as traditional gifts to brides. The piece of art is Charlie Hanovich, who's an Atlanta artist. My husband loves the Rolling Stones, so I gave him that for, I think, a birthday one year, and had Charlie do a Mick Jagger. This is for playing our albums. Little contemporary lamp. Then moving over here, this is, again, you'll notice that I give my husband pieces that I really want for myself, but call it a gift. This piece I loved because it says, "Get your shit together," but you can't really see it. So it was a little more subtle. It's black on black. It's just a different matte and sheen. So I framed that in the neon acrylic to make it pop. We love backgammon in this house. So this is our acrylic backgammon table. And then this is a piece of Jerry Garcia from a Charleston artist, framed in, again, neon acrylic. This is a Geraldine Neuwirth piece from TFA Fine Art. And I love her collages and I love her use of color, super bold and bright. Moving around, again, another little nod. This is a favorite little Grateful Dead nod. What a long, strange trip it's been, with a nod to Jerry Garcia. And this is from Furbish Studio. I love their needlepoint pillows. This piece is, again, from the Florence Broadhurst collection from a company named Salamat. I love the detail and the design on this, and I think it's such a great juxtaposition to the traditional Swedish and the traditional bow front chest. These little collection of beaded African animals are favorites of mine. I've gathered them over the years at High Point Market. They're all beaded by women tribes in Africa, and they're paid fair wages, which I appreciate. So I always kind of, each High Point Market, I treat myself to another one. These pieces are by Stephanie Henderson, who's an Atlanta artist, represented by Greg Irby Gallery. And then lots of snakes and treasures that I've gathered from places around. The rug is stark carpet. I am a huge believer that animal print rugs hide all sins. So this has been amazing. I have leopard rugs and animal print, tiger, antelope throughout the house in many places because that really hides all sins. So this room, the walls and the beams came out of a barn in Pennsylvania. When my parents were building the house in the early 60s, my grandfather purchased a barn that was being torn down, and they used all the wood from that in this den for my parents as well as my aunt and uncle's house. This is my favorite room in the house. I designed this wallpaper with Paul Montgomery, who's a company out of Virginia. He helped me mesh a lot of ideas together to come up with the perfect paper. He now has it in his line. The blue and black base is based on a wallpaper that is in a restaurant in London. I'd taken a picture of that, and then obviously my love of animals of all sorts. So we incorporated kind of an India theme with Indian elephants, giraffes, which obviously aren't found on the same continent, but I didn't care. I kind of wanted to mix it all up. Horses, antelopes, more elephants. I had him add a tiger. At the time, my son was in boarding school at a school that tiger was their mascot. So that was a fun little nod. Beautiful birds. There's monkeys and butterflies, camels. So it's kind of a mix of everything. There's an Indian wedding scene on this wall. And this room just makes me happy. I love the black lacquer, which was obviously a very bold choice compared to what it was before, which was a soft yellow, very soft paint. I put silver Schumacher grass cloth on the ceiling to give it a little more sheen. The light fixture is from Curry & Company, and it has these beautiful little selenite crystals, which are supposed to bring good energy and good vibes to your home, so I loved the idea of that. The chairs I've had since I moved back to Charlotte in 1999. They've been in the same, it's the same tiger fabric that's on the love seat in the living room. They are Louis Solomon chairs with a Ralph Lauren no longer available tiger that I love, sadly. And table linens are recent purchase from India, Dascoli linens, and they are beautiful and handmade in India and hand printed. And I really appreciate their quality of workmanship. The table is set for a little birthday dinner for a friend. Again, Billy Bernstein glasses, Estelle glass, which out of Charleston, if you don't know, she makes beautiful glassware, all based on her grandmother's collection of glass. These plates I found actually at the Met in New York in their gift shop and used them for a show house, and they kept shipping them. So I had 12 shipped. They came in a box, no paper, no wrapping, all in shards. Reordered them, all in shards. So I finally have a set of them, but I also saved all the shards because the plates have gone up in crazy in value, and I thought it could be fun to make a mirror of a shard mirror one day. So never got around to it, but it's a thought. The flatware is vintage bamboo from Cherish in gold, which I love bringing in the gold and mixing gold and silver. And then the side plates are Lynn Chase, and it's part of her Monkey Business series, which I have as a breakfast china as well. So I love mixing in the different patterns together. Then moving around this side of the room, I love this tureen. It's part of the Haas Brothers collection for L'Objet, and they are contemporary artists, and they do these kind of monsters and these weird creatures, and I love this tureen. So it's a soup tureen, and these are the, or it actually might be, it is soup. It's soup tureen, and these are the ladles. And these large vases are part of Aaron Lauder collection. These tables I've had for a zillion years. Don't even remember. I picked them up at a flea market, I think. Metrolina when it used to be or Scott's in Atlanta, one of the two. I love tying in the lime green from other parts of the house with the little ottomans. This is a piece from a Brooklyn artist. Love this little shiny encaustic piece. This is one of my favorite pieces. Again, my love of black lacquer. I bought this at Scott's in Atlanta, which is a great antique show once a month actually. Love the blue chinoiserie figures. This piece is a bowl by Bertz Kaysen, who is a New Orleans ceramicist who has passed away, but his work is now being done by one of his apprentices. In here I did a radius return brass rod with green silk taffeta curtains, and then a pretty French blue kind of cerulean velvet tape down the leading edge to kind of make the green pop out of the walls. Welcome to my entry. This is again the part that welcomes you into the home. One of my favorite things in this space is the runner. I had this custom made with stark carpet based on the original runner that Mario Boada had done in the house. I changed up the colors to make them more vibrant with pinks and purples and added a little black. The walls in here are Schumacher Miles Red deconstructed stripe. And then I used a small grosgrain tape all the way around to frame the whole thing. There was also originally growing up, there was a blue moire paper here with a similar tape that framed it. So I wanted to have the nod to that. This is the original bell jar that was in the house. Another piece of art by Sally King Benedict, who's seen other places in the house, from Haddell Brooks Gallery. I love these little funny hand benches from Interlude Home, I believe. This rug was a recent custom piece done by Post House Design, and they let me custom color a rug and obviously custom size it. This rug is another find off of Etsy. I was searching Herky rugs, as I often do, and found the one with the horse and knew that I had to have it because it has horses and people in it. Entry table, I found at Slate Interiors, which is a great shop here in Charlotte, and had it lacquered this nice fuchsia magenta color with metallic garden stools underneath. Art from Haddell Brooks Gallery. I love these couture home lamps with the abalone shell and little gilded interior shades. To me, home means being comfortable in your own space. I feel like your space should represent your personality and reflect all the things you love. Obviously, I love color and I love animals, so that's kind of what defines my house. I love all the layers and I love collecting. Shopping is my superpower, so it's great that I have a job that I can do that every day. Thanks for coming by, Homeworthy. I appreciate you being here. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.